Donald Trump's looming indictment is currently the din and the noise that we're all kind of swimming in the news business right now. But if you want to see what the average American is really focused on, look no further than Ohio, where people have now overwhelmingly approved getting abortion rights on the ballot in November. The campaign backing a constitutional amendment to protect abortion rights submitted enough valid signatures on Tuesday to qualify for the November 7 ballot. And it's pretty clear why they were successful. When you look at a recent Suffolk University poll, the majority of Ohioans support the amendment, 58% to 32%, and 68% of independents overwhelmingly support the amendment. Now, while this is great news for Ohio women, it's far from a done deal. Republican lawmakers have set a special election for August 8th, when voters will get to decide if they want to raise the threshold for statewide citizen-led initiatives like this one from a simple majority +1 to a 60% requirement. Now, just in case you missed what I said a little bit earlier, please notice that support for abortion is just shy of that 60% threshold. It's not a coincidence that Republicans want to put citizen-led initiatives just out of reach for the people they rule over. But it is a reminder of how a minority party tries to subjugate the will of the majority. But the people of Ohio were not fooled by the Republicans' tactics. 57% oppose raising the threshold. I'm joined now by Kellie Copeland, board member of Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights. Ms. Copeland, thank you for being here. So we know that there is a clear majority to keep the threshold at 50. However, August 8th is in the middle of the summer when a lot of people are traveling, when a lot of people aren't paying attention to elections. Are you confident that there will be enough turnout to ensure that the 50% threshold remains in effect?
Absolutely. You did the math, and there's no coincidence here. The extremist politicians in Columbus, they looked at the same numbers that you just mentioned, and they said, hey, we don't think we can win, so we're going to play a dirty trick. And we're going to try to hold a special election when people are on vacation, when we think they're not paying attention, so we can take away their right both to have a say directly in what's on our Constitution in the future, but also to have a say in our reproductive rights and our healthcare decisions. So that's why Ohio is on the front lines in the fight for abortion rights in America. And frankly, that's why I'm so proud of the work that this coalition, the Ohioans United for Reproductive Rights, has done. I mean, the patient advocates, the civil rights leaders, the abortion providers, and doctors from all sorts of specialties and everyday citizens really came together over these last 3 months to get over 700,000 signatures to protect our freedom so that people don't have to go back to where we were last year, where we had Ohioans who were basically medical refugees having to seek care outside of Ohio. And, I just couldn't be prouder of our coalition. And, I just have to put out a call that I know people all over the country are asking how they can get involved. And, join us at abortionaccessohio.com. We can put you to work. Text banks, phone banks, we're doing all of the things. And, even a $5 donation helps because, as you mentioned, our opponents are up to it. They're literally launching millions of dollars of ads against us, and we have 2 elections to win, August 8th and November 7th. So, and
the thing is, you just cited the name of your organization that says what it is, Ohioans for Abortion Rights. Yeah. And I will note that abortion is still legal at 22 weeks because the 6-week ban is currently in court. But I do want to play the ads from both of the 2 sides here. The other side, they sort of mush their name up in something that isn't what it says it is. They're calling themselves Protect Women of Ohio. That's the anti-abortion group. And so they're sort of changing the name, and they're trying to launder together abortion rights and the transgender issue and the issue of people who need trans care and put them together. Let me play their ad, a little of it.
These special interest groups want to allow minors to get sex changes without parental consent. Urge says parental consent laws are unethical and need to be abolished. The ACLU, they're against informing parents about their kids transitioning at school. To save parental rights in Ohio, vote yes on Issue 1 on August 8th.
And I want to just note for our audience, this group called Protect Women Ohio, this is a $5 million campaign ad that they're running, and they are a coalition of organizations including Ohio Right to Life, the Center for Christian Virtue, and the Right to Life Action Coalition of Ohio. And there's nothing in the amendment, I want to note, that mentions or supersedes Ohio's parental consent law. So what's in the ad isn't true. So I need to say that since we played this ad on our air. What do you make of this sort of obfuscation and disinformation that they're using to try to get people to use the trans issue as a way to give up their own right to abortion?
I mean, it's clear that our opponents know that they're losing. They've had 50 years to convince people of their extremist anti-abortion agenda, and they've failed. And, you know, they know that if we talk about the issue at hand, what the amendment actually does, they'll lose. So what do you do when you're unscrupulous and you're losing an argument? You change the topic. You create, you know, a false boogeyman. You do anything to get people off of the truth. And that's why, you know, our opposition, I mean, they're spreading this misinformation, but Ohioans are smart. They're not going to fall for this. And that's why our campaign is really confident that if we continue to talk about what the amendment does and what it would stop, it would stop what happened for 82 days last year when Ohioans had to flee the state, when people were scared to be pregnant in Ohio because they couldn't get the care that they needed, when people were scared of what would happen to them and their daughters and their families and their non-binary and their trans friends. Like, they were scared. It was terrifying. I remember seeing those faces. That's what this amendment is about, making sure that we don't have to go back to that. It's not about all these things that they're trying to change the topic to.
And by the way, if you have a trans kid, they're saying that the Republicans in the Ohio legislature should get to decide what happens with your kid, not you. Parental consent means that if you have a trans kid and you want to decide what their medical care is going to be, you should get to decide that. They're trying to say that not only for women, but for trans children, they get to decide what happens to your kid, just like they get to decide what you can read, what you can do. Yep. This total control over other people's bodies is wild. Kellie Copeland, thank you so much for being here. Best of luck. We'll be following what happens with the August 8th vote, as well as the one in November. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.